Notice periods. What are the requirements? Being a landlord, whether self-managed or having your property managed by an agency, it's important to understand the legal requirements around notice periods. There are different notice period requirements for different scenarios. These include, but are not excluded to, maintenance, emergency repairs, inspections, termination, tenant vacating, and more. It is important to understand the difference in terminology. So here at Cox Property Solutions, we want our clients to feel empowered during their property journey, and knowledge is power. Let's dive in and find out what is what when it comes to notice periods. What does lease expiry really mean? We are seeing a lot of confusion between expiry and vacating. When a lease expires, it simply means that the fixed period of the tenancy has ended. This does not mean that the tenant is required to vacate on that date, unless prior written notice has been given. More information below. And the tenancy rolls into a periodic or month-by-month agreement. The expiry date is not the vacating or termination date. The same basic terms apply after the expiry date. The tenant is still liable for rental payment and agreed outgoings. If you have specific time periods that you require access or vacancy of your property, it is important to communicate them openly with your agent to ensure all the correct and legal processes can be carried out. Terminating a tenancy agreement, landlord obligations. Your agent will discuss with you, prior to starting tenancy, what your goals are when renting your house. It's important for your agent to understand your short and long-term goals to ensure the correct notice periods can be carried out. A landlord ending a fixed-term agreement requires a termination date not earlier than 90 days after the day on which this notice is given, or the day the term of residential tenancy agreement ends, whichever is the later. A landlord ending a periodic tenancy requires termination date not earlier than 90 days after the day on which this notice is given. What if there are grounds to terminate or not renew? Should tenant be in breach of their agreement by ways of non-payment of rent or agreed outgoings, then the landlord can issue notice of 14 days for the tenant to vacate. Selling? When selling a tenanted property, you must inform the tenant in writing with the intent to sell 14 days prior to marketing or advertising commences. Should you enter into a sales contract that requires the property to be vacant, the required notice period to the tenants is 30 days. General access notice. Inspections. Inspections can be carried out 4 times in a 12-month period and require a minimum 7 days notice to the tenant. Should the tenant have legitimate reason that the day and time does not suit, they can request it to be changed to a more suitable day and time. Repairs and maintenance. To carry out necessary repairs and maintenance, the notice period to enter the property is 48 hours. Urgent repairs. Urgent or emergency repairs do not require a set notice period to access the property. To comply with health and safety concerns, e.g. pool fencing, notice period is 48 hours. To inspect or assess smoke alarms, 48 hours. To repair smoke alarms, 1 hour. Property valuations can only occur once in a 12-month period and require a minimum of 7 days notice. To take photos of the property to advertise the property for rent or sale, reasonable notice and reasonable opportunity must be given for the tenant to move any belongings that can reasonably be moved out of the picture frame or video scope, only once in a 28-day period before marketing starts or the agreement ends. To show prospective buyers a tenanted property, the tenant must be given 48 hours notice each time and no more than 2 a week. There are no notice periods for the following. In an emergency, if the landlord or agent has reason to believe the property has been abandoned, or if the tenant has not been contactable, and there is legitimate cause for concern to the well-being of the tenant or other occupants.